Have you noticed that the conversations that used to light you up now feel empty? That the routine that worked for years suddenly feels suffocating? This isn't a breakdown. It's intelligence emerging. It's your internal system doing exactly what it should before any real transformation. Carl Jung called this the call to individuation, when the unconscious knocks on the door of consciousness and says, "It's time." But here's what most people don't realize. This discomfort has an expiration date. There's a window where transformation is fluid, almost inevitable. And there's another where it becomes a painful, drawn-out battle. Over the next minutes, you're going to understand 3 things that will completely change how you see your own transformation. First, why your body knows you're ready before your mind agrees, and how to use that to your advantage. Second, the one internal pattern that once recognized makes behavioral change almost automatic. Third, the invisible structure that transformed people carry inside them, and that you can start building today, right now. At the end, I'll reveal the one test that shows whether you're truly at the turning point or just circling around it. But for now, just notice something. The restlessness that brought you here isn't confusion. It's intelligence emerging. Let me ask you something straight up. Do you trust your head or your gut more? If you answered head, prepare to discover something modern neuroscience has been confirming for decades. Your gut contains over 100 million neurons, more than your entire spinal column. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field 8 times stronger than your brain. These aren't poetic facts. This is pure anatomy. Antonio Damasio, the neuroscientist who revolutionized how we understand decision-making, proved something surprising. People with damage to the emotional region of their brain can't make rational decisions. 0. Not even simple ones, like choosing what to have for lunch. Why? Because your body processes information milliseconds before your verbal consciousness catches up. What you call intuition is actually information processing faster than conscious thought. Here's how this shows up in your real life. You walk into a meeting, and before a single word is spoken, something in you says, "Careful." You're about to accept an offer that looks perfect on paper, but you feel tightness in your chest. You meet someone new, and, though they're charming, your body pulls back slightly. These aren't random signals. Your nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for patterns, a process called neuroception. It's older than language, faster than thought. And here's the truth that changes everything. When you're at the turning point, your body knows first. You wake up with a sensation you can't name. It's not exactly anxiety, but a kind of electricity, like something's about to happen. That sensation, it's your nervous system recalibrating. Joe Dispenza measured this in over 20,000 brain scans. Before any significant behavioral change, the brain goes through specific patterns of neural reorganization. Your body is already inhabiting the future your mind hasn't verbalized yet. But wait, if the body already knows, why does the mind resist so hard? The answer lies in something Jung called the shadow, and that's what we need to talk about now. Your deepest pain isn't your problem, it's your unrecognized teacher. Carl Jung realized something modern psychology is still discovering. There's no transformation without integration, and there's no integration without looking at what you've spent your whole life avoiding. He called this the shadow, not your bad part, but your unintegrated part. These are the impulses you learned to reject, the emotions you were taught to hide, the desires society told you to shame. Let me show you how this works in practice. Say you always sabotage yourself when you're about to succeed. Big project? You get sick the night before the presentation. Relationship going well? You pick a fight for no reason. Most people would say, you need more discipline. Jung would say, you need to understand what the saboteur is protecting. Because here's the truth. Every destructive behavior was once a survival strategy. You sabotage yourself because deep down, success means visibility, and visibility means danger. Your internal system learned, probably in childhood, that being seen is risky. Internally, when you start integrating the shadow, something shifts. You stop having a civil war inside yourself. There's less of that feeling of being pulled in opposite directions. Externally, you stop justifying behaviors that don't reflect who you really are. You say no without a 3-paragraph dissertation explaining why. You accept your contradictions without collapsing. James Clear, in Atomic Habits, proved something complementary. Lasting change doesn't come from willpower. It comes from identity change. But you can't change identity without first integrating all the parts that compose it, including the ones you'd rather ignore. But integration isn't enough. There's something more, something about how you observe your own life that changes everything. And that brings us to one of the most misunderstood concepts in quantum physics. Forget everything you've heard about quantum physics in motivational videos. I'm going to give you the real version, and it's even more powerful. The observer effect shows that particles exist in multiple states until they're observed. The moment of observation, they collapse into a specific reality. But here's what matters for your life. You're not observing particles. You're observing your own existence all the time. And the way you observe determines what manifests. Let me make this concrete with a real example. 2 people lose their jobs on the same day. Same external situation. Person A observes from the identity, I'm a victim of circumstances. Their brain literally starts filtering the world, looking for evidence of that narrative. They don't see opportunities because their observation isn't tuned to that frequency. Person B observes from the identity, I'm someone who adapts and finds pathways. Same loss, different observation. Their brain now scans the environment looking for possibilities, connections, resources. This isn't toxic positivity. It's applied neuroplasticity. Joe Dispenza demonstrated this in thousands of cases. When you genuinely change your internal state, not faking it, but truly reorganizing your observation, your electromagnetic field changes. And where the field changes, matter eventually follows. You notice you spend more time thinking about possibilities than problems. You feel less need to control every detail. You experience moments of sudden clarity where previously invisible connections become obvious. It's not magic, it's perceptual reorganization, but observing the right way is only half the equation. The other half is about building the internal structure that sustains this new observation. And there's an ancient word for that structure. Faith isn't what they taught you. It's not blind belief. It's not naive optimism. And it's definitely not thinking positive until reality cooperates. Hebrews 11:1 defines faith in a way most people forget. The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Notice the word? Evidence. Faith isn't the absence of proof. It's an internal structure so solid it functions as evidence before external manifestation. Jordan Peterson, analyzing biblical narratives through psychological lenses, argues that faith is trust in a structure that transcends the ego. Trust that there's an ordering principle in chaos, even when you can't see it. Here's the difference between faith and impulsiveness. Impulsiveness is emotional reaction. You feel like doing something and you do it without considering consequences. Faith is conscious response from a stable inner center. You face a decision where all external evidence says, "Don't do this." But something deep, not impulse, not fleeting emotion, says, "This is the way." You act not because you have guarantees. You act because your internal structure is aligned. Think of Abraham leaving everything without a GPS for where he was going. Think of Noah building an ark when it had never rained. These aren't stories about luck. They're narratives about internal conviction, completely reorienting external action. Internally, there's fear, yes, but there's also something deeper than fear, an unshakable stillness. You don't feel the need to convince anyone. You don't need external validation. Externally, you act with less hesitation. Words become more economical. There's less justification and more execution. If this message is resonating with something deep in you, consider subscribing to the channel. Not for the algorithm, but because every week we bring reflections like this. Practical tools for transformation from the inside out. It's simple. Hit the button, turn on notifications, and continue the journey with us. But now, how do you build that structure? Not through grand gestures. It's through something much smaller and much more powerful. You don't decide who you are. You prove it to yourself, one small act at a time. James Clear revolutionized how we understand change by showing that lasting transformation doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from systems of small habits that reinforce a new identity. The person who sees themselves as an athlete doesn't need motivation to train. Action flows from identity, not willpower. But here's what Clear discovered that changes everything. Every small action is a vote. You don't need to win 100% of the votes. You just need to win the majority. I'll give you the exact system. You want to be someone who takes care of their health. Failing approach? I'm going to work out every day at 5 a.m. Why? Because you're trying to win 100% of the votes at once. Working approach? Every day after I brush my teeth, I do 10 push-ups. Why does it work? First, you're anchoring the new habit to an existing one. Your brain already has an established pattern. You're just adding something small. Second, it's so small that resistance is minimal. There's no valid excuse. Third, every time you follow through, you're casting a vote. I'm someone who moves, no matter what. Brian Tracy studied high-performance patterns for decades and discovered that successful people don't have more discipline. They have systems that make desired actions obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. Internally, the conversation shifts. Before it was, I should do this, obligation. Now it's, this is what people like me do, identity. Externally, others start noticing changes without you announcing anything. Your actions speak louder than your intentions. But there's something even deeper happening when you consistently vote for a new identity. Something every spiritual tradition recognizes, but most misinterpret. Transformation isn't additive, it's substitutive. Jesus said with surgical clarity, unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. Paul reinforced, I die daily, not once, but every day. Jung realized that every individuation process involves a symbolic death, the dissolution of the persona you built to survive. That persona isn't bad, it was necessary. But there's a moment when what protected you becomes what imprisons you. Let me help you identify what needs to die in you. Is it the version that needs everyone's approval to feel valuable? Is it the version that defines itself entirely by work? Is it the version that carries someone else's pain as if it were your own? Symbolic death doesn't happen all at once. It happens in layers, in moments of choice. You receive an invitation to something the old version would attend out of obligation, and you simply say no. You notice a pattern of self-sabotage starting, and this time you interrupt it. You feel the urge to react like you always have, but you choose silence instead. There's grief. There's a strange vertigo of not knowing exactly who you're becoming. But there's also relief, a profound relief from finally allowing the false to fall away. Relationships change. Some deepen tremendously. Others disappear, not through conflict, but through different resonance. You're no longer available for dynamics that require you to be small so others can feel big. And when something dies, something new needs to be born. Not a new persona, but something far more real. The journey isn't to become someone you're not. It's to integrate all the parts of who you've always been. Jung called this the self, not the ego, but the psychic totality, the lights and the shadows, the strengths and the wounds, everything. Think of Jacob wrestling with God until dawn. He didn't win. He was wounded, his hip permanently displaced, but he was also transformed. Israel, the one who struggled with God and prevailed. The wound became part of the identity, not something to hide. You stop dividing your life into good part and bad part. You allow yourself to be contradictory without collapsing. You can be deeply spiritual and still feel anger. You can pursue growth and still appreciate rest. You can be strong and vulnerable in the same body, on the same day. There's less civil war. You're not trying to eliminate parts of yourself anymore. You're integrating them. And in that integration, something surprising emerges. Peace that doesn't depend on external circumstances. You become less reactive. When someone provokes you, there's a pause where there used to be automatic response. You don't need to prove anything. Your presence becomes calmer, more solid, and others feel it. Not because you're performing calm, but because you genuinely inhabit a more stable center. Remember when I said there was a test to know if you're truly at the turning point? Here it is. The test isn't whether you're comfortable. It's whether you're willing to honor what's already happening inside you, even when it means discomfort. The test isn't whether you have total clarity. It's whether you can take a step without seeing the entire path. The test isn't whether you feel fear. It's whether you act despite it. So here's what to do now. Not tomorrow, now. First, place your hand on your heart. Feel the electromagnetic field that's 8 times stronger than your brain. Ask one simple question. What needs to change? Don't force an answer. Just listen. Second, place your hand on your abdomen below your ribs. Remember, there are more neurons here than in your spine. Ask, which version of me is asking to die? Again, just listen. Third, identify one small action, not grandiose, just true, that the integrated version of you would do today. And do it. Not as a promise for the future, as a vote for your new identity, now. Your body already knows you're ready. Your shadow has already shown you what needs to be integrated. Your observation is beginning to collapse a new reality. Your internal structure is strengthening, one vote at a time. And something in you is dying so something more real can be born. If this touched something deep, leave a comment with one word representing what you're choosing to release. Leave a like so this message reaches whoever needs to hear it. and subscribe to the channel, because real transformation requires honest conversations, and we're just getting started. This is faith before. Faith that precedes evidence. Structure that precedes manifestation. Not because you ignore reality, but because you recognize that reality always begins within. The silent turning point is already here. It's not a date on the calendar. It's this moment, now, and the silent choice only you can make. The only question is, will you honor it?